Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And I've been off the last few days. As many of you all are aware, I've unfortunately been sick. So, yeah, sorry if my voice is a little bit shot. I am going to try to get through this video the best I can in terms of my voice. But, by the way, thank you everybody for the get well wishes. You all continue to be absolutely just awesome, so thank you all for that. I am feeling somewhat better now, though, and just in time for a very exciting day in the world of gaming. E3 in September, because we have a new Nintendo Direct and a PlayStation State of Play set for the same day. How fun is that? The Nintendo Direct just took place, though, and we are going to jump right into that, but also do stay tuned for some Xbox news as well. They are honestly having a fantastic year, and all signs continues to point upward for the rest of the year as well. With that said, though, let's just go and dive right into the Nintendo Direct, because they just revealed 29 games in 40 minutes. Now, admittedly, I would say that this was an overall average Direct for the most part. It was really the final announcement that kind of made up for a so-so Direct, I'll say. But there were still some really interesting announcements here, and we are going to go over each one of those. So first off, Pyro continues to prove that they are a legitimate leaker, because once again, everything that they said came true. A Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake did in fact get announced here, though I think that's a little bit of a surprise. I do think that this is a good series, and if you've not played these games before, I think that you're in for a real treat. Now, at the same time, though, and this is why I kind of say that this is a little bit of a surprise, I don't know of a lot of people that were necessarily calling for a Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake. With that, I almost kind of feel like the resources could have been better put to use. There's a lot of other remakes that fans are asking for. But I mean, I guess I can kind of look at this in a different way. This is a game that a lot of people, especially that modern audience, haven't played. This was originally a Game Boy Advance game, a very good one at that. Do not sleep on this game, I'll say that right now. And I think a lot of people will really enjoy the remake. And for a lot of people, for the first time. So I think that that's kind of the positive of remaking a game that maybe not a lot of people were necessarily asking for, because it will be a brand new game for a lot of people, and it'll also kind of capitalize on some of that nostalgia as well. And hey, if this game performs well, maybe Nintendo can bring this series back with a brand new installment. I feel like this series kind of lost its way a little bit on the 3DS, but here's kind of its chance to make a comeback in a meaningful way. It is set to release on February 16th of 2024. That is something that I started to notice with this Direct, though. Nintendo is already building up a solid 2024 library, and that also includes Princess Peach Showtime. Now, they teased this game in a prior showcase, but we now have gameplay to analyze, and this is a little bit more creative than what I was originally expecting. This is not a simple 2D platformer that focuses on Princess Peach. This is more of a mishmash of genres, because in each individual stage, the gameplay completely changes. Peach can be a kung fu artist in one level and then a sword master in the next. It's going to vary level to level, and it actually looks both creative and good for what it is. This could actually end up being one of the more surprising releases next year, just in terms of quality. I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise that catches some people off guard. It is set for March 22nd, so like I said before, that early part of 2024 is already shaping up, which is actually quite interesting. We're going to come back to that a little bit more here in just a bit. In fact, and this to me might be one of the most exciting announcements, but the original Tomb Raider trilogy is coming back with a fresh coat of paint. I mean, I absolutely love this. Now, I understand that some people get tired of remakes, but I'm all for them personally. I think that they're a great way to bring fans back to play some of the most beloved games ever made, all while introducing completely new fans to the series. Not everybody was born when these games released. It's also the same reason I get frustrated when people spoil things like Final Fantasy VII. Now you have the remakes going around and people are spoiling that game for people, but a lot of the people that are playing these games, they did not play the original back in the 1990s. Not everybody was born in the 90s. Let's kind of keep that in mind. But anyways, I'm all for remakes. Make these games better, make them visually more pleasing, and just make them readily available for the modern audience. And well, there's very few series out there that are as beloved as Tomb Raider. So yeah, it's exciting to see the original 3 games are making a comeback with a fresh coat of paint. They will release on February 14th, and don't worry, they are coming to all platforms. It is set to release for Nintendo, PlayStation, PC, and yes, there is an Xbox version as well. They just confirmed that a moment ago. Splatoon 3 expansion pass was also announced here. Now, I'm not really a huge Splatoon fan myself, but this is a massive IP for Nintendo, especially over in Japan. So I'm sure they're going absolutely crazy over this. And just overall, I think a lot of people are probably pretty excited about its expansion titled Side Order. It's officially slated for spring of 2024, and it will cost $25. The Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon Remaster also got an official release date. It's now officially titled Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which, yeah, that's going to be a lot less confusing for first-time buyers. But yes, again, it's coming out summer of 2024. I think the visuals look pretty good, especially for a 3DS remake. And truthfully, this really only makes me want a Kid Icarus Uprising remake just that much more. I mean, can you imagine that game being remade for the Switch or the Switch Successor? That game would look absolutely excellent. But if you haven't played the original Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS, it's legitimately a good experience. It is a little bit different just because you explore multiple mansions rather than just one. It leaned a little bit more into that handheld experience with a pick-up and play style in small doses. But with Luigi's Mansion 3 just exploding this generation, it's going to be interesting to see how well this remake will sell. Now, it being a remake, though, I'm not expecting this to sell as much as Luigi's Mansion 3, but this honestly is a big IP for Nintendo now. It might surprise some people, but Luigi's Mansion 3 is sold more than 10 million units. It might have actually eclipsed 15 million. I'm going to have to look into that here in just a second. I'll include an update on screen if I can. But yes, Luigi's Mansion is legitimately a big IP for Nintendo now, and that's why Luigi's Mansion 2, it's pretty exciting to see that one come over to the Switch. I think going into this direct, though, thanks to the leaks going around, once again, Pyoro, one game a lot of people were just hyper-focused on was F-Zero. They might legitimately bring it back as we've been asking for years and years, though I don't know if it's the way that fans were necessarily hoping. I was right the other day. Pyoro was, in fact, teasing F-Zero 99. It is out today for Switch Online subscribers, so I mean, you can go check this one out right now, and I mean, okay, here's the thing. I think that this could be fun. It's not necessarily what fans were hoping for, and I completely understand that, but if it means anything, Nintendo is at the very least acknowledging that this series exists. That's progress. They haven't forgotten about F-Zero. They put at least some work into giving fans a fresh, new F-Zero experience. Maybe this will be just the beginning for more F-Zero in the future. I mean, we can only hope by this point, but I know we're all still hoping for a GX remaster as well, but I guess we can have some fun with F-Zero 99 in the meantime. Now, one surprise I don't think anybody would have predicted is a DS and Wii remake, Another Code Recollection. Now, apparently the original game was a point-and-click adventure with an emotionally driven story, and then a sequel released on the Wii, but it never actually released in North America. So, after all these years, you can finally finish its story. Now, admittedly, though, I've never even heard of these games, but it did catch my attention here. I think it actually does look kind of interesting. I like the art style. The story sounds interesting. So, yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this game, and hopefully it turns out to be a good game, or actually, in this case, good games. These are two different games in one single bundle. Both games, though, are set to release as a bundle on January 19th of 2024. To add to that 2024 lineup, though, we got a couple exciting JRPGs to look forward to as well. Iodine Chronicles, the spiritual successor to Suikoden 2, finally got an official release date. It is now set for April 23rd. It looks about as good as we hoped it would. Then Atlas and Vanillaware. Now, that should already draw a lot of attention, but they announced a new game, Unicorn Overlord. Quite a peculiar name in this case, but as you might expect with any Vanillaware game, it's got a very unique art style to it, though they're now trying their hands with a full-fledged tactical RPG. Now, they did experiment with tactic-based combat in 13 Sentinels, but that wasn't really the main focus of that game. That was really more of a visual novel with some tactic-based combat thrown in. I'll be really curious, though, to see what they've learned and how they can apply that to Unicorn Overlord. Vanillaware by this point, though, I mean, they have really proven their talent. They have a bit of a cult following, and that's for a very good reason. Their art style, they always look good. They're very unique. They make fun games. And then, I mean, what we saw with 13 Sentinels is that they also showcase their storytelling component, and I want to see them take that next step when they release Unicorn Overlord on March 8th. Can they combine all of those amazing aspects together and make for a truly standout game? I'm going to hope for that, but again, it will be releasing on March 8th of next year. The big, massive announcement, though, that I think actually saved this showcase in a lot of ways was their final announcement, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I was not expecting this at all. Technically, it did leak out earlier in the year. There's been a lot of rumors about its return. But once they announced Mario RPG in a previous showcase, I just kind of figured that they're likely not going to do both. Well, I'm happy to say that I was wrong, because I was pleasantly surprised with this announcement. I mean, if you don't know this about me, the original Paper Mario is among my favorite games ever made. I absolutely adore this series, which is even more frustrating, because after The Thousand Year Door, Nintendo has just kind of ruined this series in so many different ways. Now, I mean, to be fair, I don't think that the new Paper Mario games are bad per se. If you want to go out and play Origami King, it's an okay game, but they're certainly not what we've been asking for. All we've ever wanted from this series was a return to form with turn-based JRPG combat. And in an almost ironic kind of way, we're finally getting that chance once again with a remake for the Nintendo Switch. Now, maybe if it sells well, just maybe, Nintendo will finally reconsider the future of this franchise. So, everybody needs to go buy this game. You need to send Nintendo a message. This is the Paper Mario games that we want. What I'll kind of tell you right now, though, is that if you haven't played the original games, the first two entries are absolutely excellent, and I'm beyond excited to see them come back to the Switch next year in 2024. Whether you're an old-time fan or completely new to the series, these games are worth buying into. Both the gameplay and the art have aged incredibly well, and with any kind of improvements that they make, is only going to make it that much better. So definitely look forward to this game when it releases next year in 2024. And that's really the theme that I kind of noticed with this Direct. They announced a lot of 2024 games that takes us all the way to summer of 2024. I mean, we've been hearing a lot of rumors about that Nintendo Switch successor, the Nintendo Switch 2, if you will. And this Direct, if you look at it, could be the last hurrah. Now, they might have a few other announcements as well, but if you're noticing, they don't have any of those megaton announcements that's going to push 10+ million units. But there's a lot of good quality remakes here, and then some smaller scale B-tier type of games that will be a great way to transition into their next platform. This Direct announced several games that will keep fans occupied for the foreseeable future, and that's what I took away from this Direct. Now, I will say this much though, Metroid was a noticeable absence here. I mean, you have to think by this point, Metroid Prime 4 has to be a Switch 2 game. Not the bare minimum a cross-generation title, which I think would make a lot of sense, but it can kind of be what the Switch was to Zelda Breath of the Wild. that launch combination really catapulted Zelda into a whole new tier of popularity. Now, I'm not saying that Metroid Prime 4 launching side by side with the Switch 2 will be as popular as Zelda Breath of the Wild. I wouldn't expect that, but it very well could increase its popularity, and this is really what the Metroid fan base wants to see. We want to see Metroid increase in popularity that way that it's not just a B-tier franchise. We want to see this be a little bit more solidified into Nintendo's future with not just Metroid Prime 4, but with new Metroids on a regular basis. That's what we are all hoping to see. Now, before we move into the poll of the day, though, we are going to switch gears here just for a moment because we do have one other thing to talk about because Xbox legitimately has had a great year. I mean, if you think about it, these are all first-party titles that's released on Xbox this year, which includes Xbox Game Pass. You have Ghostwire Tokyo, Hi-Fi Rush, Quake 2 Enhanced, Minecraft Legends, and, of course, we can't forget about Starfield. That game is absolutely massive. That is a stellar year already. But here's the thing. There's still one more first-party game for fans to look forward to, and that's none other than Forza Motorsports. Well, I'm happy to say that early previews have been going out over the last few days, and so far, early impressions are absolutely glowing about how good this game is. It's being described as the biggest evolution the series has ever seen. Apparently, the driving feels different than previous titles, a little heavier than past entries, though it is reportedly very approachable for a sim racer. It's also being described as flat-out gorgeous, which, I mean, I think is to be expected. Car games do often look great. They are a great way to showcase the power of consoles, but Turn 10 is really showcasing their efforts with Forza. I mean, it's been the longest wait for a new entry between releases. It's been 6 long years, though the wait sounds like it will be well worth it. Forza will come with 3 visual modes, including Performance, which prioritizes 60 frames per second at dynamic 4K resolution. Then there's Visual Mode, which is 30 frames per second with full 4K resolution and ray tracing. And then lastly, and this is the exciting inclusion, it also has Performance ray tracing, where you can play at 60 frames per second with dynamic 4K and ray tracing, yes, is enabled. So ray tracing isn't locked to just replays or anything like that. It will be available out of the gate, all while giving you that buttery smooth 60 frames per second. So Turn 10, they're putting in the work once again. And yeah, Xbox players, you all have legitimately had a great year, and sounds like that's only going to continue forward. Let's go get to the poll of the day, though, going back to that Nintendo Direct once again, because, of course, I asked you all, what letter grade would you give Nintendo Direct 9.14.23? And the majority of you all gave it a C. As you can see here, 8% of you gave it an A, 31% a B, 40% a C, 11% a D, and then 11% an F. And I mean, that means most of you all were satisfied. A combined 79% of you voted for C or above, which I think is quite telling here. I do agree. I think that this was just a good, solid showcase. Personally, I'd give it a C as well. It's about what I was expecting, and I think this is what fans should kind of expect going forward. Outside of some crazy Switch Successor announcement, which, I mean, could be soon. We'll see about that. But I don't think Nintendo is going to announce a huge megaton game before they announce their next console. We really are in that transition period. And I think under that context, this was a good, solid showcase. There were several interesting announcements here. Maybe not a megaton announcement, but there were several interesting announcements. And hey, Mario RPG fans, you all are eating very, very well. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget about the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.